So once you download the zip file of the web API, what you can do is unzip it and then open the solution. In this case, I'm using Visual Studio on the Mac, and then you run the project web API. Wait a few seconds. The application has started. By default, it's gonna take you to this hard-coded data, but if you wanna taste it, you go to localhost 5000 Swagger index HTML, and with this tool Swagger, you can immediately test it. For example, if you want to get all the themes, let's try out, execute, and I'm getting only one theme. But this is the web application running locally in my computer. In order to do it locally, you need to have a Docker installed with a tool called Kinetic. So running a Microsoft SQL Server Linux locally, and in order to connect to this server, you need to change the connection string to this one, data source localhost, the name of the database, uh, the name of the server, the ID, and the password. If you're gonna connect this web API to a server in the cloud, you're gonna have to change the string to the right connection. For example, here I'm using a server in Azure DevOps in the Azure portal, and the connection is gonna look like that, where I got the password and the name of the database.
Missouri, and I will be showing you how to install and prepare your workspace for the volunteer attendance system applications for iOS and Android. The software requirements for this is Xcode 10 and onward, as well as Android Studio 3 and onward. So both projects are compatible with these versions. The Android project was made with Kotlin, and the iOS was made with Swift. So first off, once you have your once you clone the repos for GCI Android and GCI iOS, let me first walk you through the Android Studio one, the Android. So first, what you'll need to do once you're in Android Studio, you will need to make sure that you open an existing Android Studio project. This way you will have all of the Android files correctly grouped together. So let that open up. It may take a while as the Gradle builds, as the entire project does index. Alright, so once it finishes building, as you can see now, we can see the Android view of the full files and folders. You will mainly find the source code under app java and this package com.gci.attendance system, and the files are grouped based on feature such as the admin view, attendance view, home, and if we used any interfaces, the login view, models, networking related information code, and the profile. You'll find your layout files under the resource folder, under the layout package. All the XML files you will find here. Any drawables used in the project will be found in the drawable package. Any menus that we used will be in the menu package. Any hard-coded strings will be under values, such as strings. Any of the hexadecimal colors that we use are here, the values are here. And once it finishes indexing, you should be set. If in the case that it does not want to build or you're having any issues, you would want to make sure that you have the latest Gradle versions for the libraries that we used in the applications. For example, you'll find your Gradle file here along with the dependencies that we used in the project. You would want to constantly sync the project with your Gradle files, either through with this icon, or we're going to File, Sync Project with Gradle files. It'll go through that process. You can see it building here. This might take some time depending on your system. Once it finishes building, it has not found any syntax errors or errors with the Gradle versions. Android Studio will also let you know if there's a newer version of a certain dependency, such as here, and you can go through this, and depending how the dates that you do this, the versions might be different, so make sure to find the latest version of these dependencies and just sync your project with your Gradle files. So that is all for the Android project, getting that up and running. You may have to configure your own virtual device, and this really depends on each system, each machine. But basically, to create a virtual device, you'll have to go through into the Android Virtual Device Manager, which is this. You'll create new virtual device. You'll select whichever device you want, select skins in this case. you'll select what API and SDK you want to download onto the virtual device. You'll select that, and depending on what API and SDK you have installed on your machine, that will depend as well. Currently, the Android application works from all the way to the minimum SDK version 23, and currently the project is set up to work with Android X at the moment, but that covers all bases for the Android project. Now for the iOS project, we did use Cocoa Pods for managing all dependencies in the project. So you may have to do a sudo gem install Cocoa Pods. You will have to enter your password, and it might take a while depending if you've already had Cocoa Pods installed or have not. In my case, I already have installed it. So once you have that set up, you would want to run pod install on the project, which will basically install all of the dependencies that we use in the project, such as Eureka, Tiny Constraints, Tabman, so on and so forth. So once that's done, you want to open up the folder where the project is at. Then you would want to open the workspace file instead of the Xcode project file because of the use of pods. So once you open that up, it should open up in Xcode. You'll see you'll have your pods here. You'll have all of your source code here. The way that this is grouped is basically classes or all of the logic in the application, resources or assets. All the icons are already there. Currently there is no app icon. We have your plist file under supporting files folder. So the heavy duty source code is in the classes folder. Here you can see we have our models, we have our networking related code, and it's all grouped based on enums, endpoints, encodings. For example, endpoints, we have a login service file where it uses the service protocol. So we've also made a folder that holds all of the protocols necessary or that were used in the project. So that is all for networking. For system, we have our app delegate, which takes care of all of the application level routing, so such as showing what root view controller is shown first. And then we have all of the view related, so this deals with all of the UI related code, which is base controllers, the base cells, any extensions used, and then we also group it by features. We have the login, any system related UIs. Code is like the main tab bar controllers or anything at that level, but other than that, we have volunteer related and admin related, and so the screens that are admin related are under that folder. Any screens that are volunteer related are under that folder, and then each folder just has two separate folders, which one for views, one for controllers. And this goes on for every folder. So once you have that, you are all set. You should be ready to start to run and build and run this project, both projects. All right, thank you.